Assalamualaikum. Welcome to the Bonsai demonstration here at the Arts Council. मैं पहले पाकिस्तान बॉन्साई सोसाइटी का इंट्रोडक्शन करवाना चाहूँगा। पाकिस्तान बॉन्साई सोसाइटी अब 1999 से 1999 से कराची के अंदर कायम है। हम लोग पास्ट में काफ़ी इवेंट्स ऑर्गेनाइज कर चुके हैं। हर साल हम लोग HSP के फ्लावर शो में पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं। इसके अलावा हम अपना खुद एक एग्जीबिशन करते हैं जो कि जमजमा पार्क में होता है। हमारा जमजमा पार्क में परमानेंट डिस्प्ले सेंटर है। वहाँ पे हमारे परमानेंट डिस्प्ले के प्लांट्स भी होते हैं और वहाँ हम वर्कशॉप भी कंडक्ट करते हैं जिनमें हम लोगों को सिखाते हैं कि किस तरह से बॉन्साई बनाना है। अगर आप में से कोई भी लोग इंटरेस्टेड हो, बॉन्साई सोसाइटी ज्वाइन करना चाहें या वर्कशॉप अटेंड करना चाहें या उसके बारे में मोर इन्फॉर्मेशन चाहिए हो, तो हमारी वेबसाइट है pakistanbonsai.org। जैसा मैंने बताया कि जमजमा पार्क में हमारा सेंटर है, तो आप जमजमा पार्क में शाम में या पार्क टाइमिंग के अंदर भी विजिट कर सकते हैं, सेंटर देख सकते हैं। हम अपनी वर्कशॉप का शेड्यूल वेबसाइट के ऊपर डालते हैं और मेंबर्स को SMS भेजते हैं। तो अगर आप अपना नंबर हमें दे दें तो हम आपको नेक्स्ट इवेंट का SMS भी कर देंगे। मैं इंट्रोडक्शन कराऊंगा डॉक्टर सईद फियाज का। हमारे पास प्रेसिडेंट हैं, वो डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन कंडक्ट करेंगे। इसमें हम आपको बताएंगे कि किस तरह से बॉन्साई बनाना है। उससे पहले मैं मेजर सबूर साहब से ब्रिगेडियर सबूर साहब से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि वो आके बॉन्साई की हिस्ट्री बताएं। ब्रिगेडियर सबूर साहब।
Before we get on to the demonstration by Dr. Saeed Fayaz, I would just like to give you a brief history of the bonsai art. Bonsai, pronounced as bonsai, is cloaked in the mist of the past, but is now widely accepted that it was the Chinese who first created the miniature landscapes and trees that we now know as bonsai. In Japanese, bonsai can be literally translated as trade planting. But since originating in Asia so many centuries ago, it was developed into a whole new form called penjing by the Chinese. Bonsai was believed to have had its start in the Han Dynasty. In this discussion, in today's demonstration, or in my brief introduction to you, I will just give you a few aspects. One of the earliest Chinese legends contend that it was in the Han Dynasty in 2006 BC that an emperor created a landscape in his courtyard, complete with hills, valleys, rivers, lakes, and trees that represented his entire empire. He created the landscape so that he could gaze upon his entire empire from his palace window. This landscape form of art was also his alone to possess. It was said that anyone else found in possession of even a miniature landscape was seen as a threat to his empire and he put him to death. Another Chinese legend relating to the beginnings of bonsai points to a 4th century AD Chinese poet and civil servant named Guing Ming. It's believed that after his retirement he began growing chrysanthemums in pots. Some historians believe this was a step towards the beginning of the bonsai in the Tang Dynasty some 200 years later. The earliest documented proof of bonsai was discovered in 1972 in the tomb of Prince Zhang Guai of the Tang Dynasty, who was there from 618 to 907 AD and died in 706 AD. Two wall paintings discovered in the tomb show servants carrying plants resembling bonsai. In one of the paintings, a servant is seen carrying a miniature landscape, and the other painting, a servant is shown carrying a pot containing a tree. Even though the Japanese get most of the credit for bonsai, it wasn't until the Heian period 794 to 1191 AD that Buddhist monks brought bonsai to the island. For many years following the arrival of bonsai, the art was practiced by only the wealthy and thus came to be known as a nobleman's privilege. The fact that art of bonsai was limited to the noble class almost caused the art to die out in Japan. It was with the Chinese invasion of Japan in the 14th century that art of bonsai started to be practiced by people of all classes. Once the art was practiced by all classes, bonsai began to grow in popularity in Japan. The Chinese influence on the early bonsai masters is apparent since the Japanese still use the same characters to represent bonsai as Chinese. After the establishment of bonsai in Japan, the Japanese went to great lengths to refine the art, and a lot of credit must go to these early bonsai masters. The refinements that they developed has made bonsai what it is today. The earliest bonsai to come to the West came mostly from Japan and China. The showing of bonsai at the Third Universal Exhibition in Paris and later exhibitions increased Western interest in bonsai and opened the door for the first major bonsai exhibit held in London. In these early years, many Westerners felt that the trees looked tortured, and many openly voiced their displeasure in the way the trees were being treated by bonsai masters. It wasn't until 1935 that opinions changed and bonsai was finally classified as an art in the West. With the end of the World War II, bonsai started to gain in popularity in the West. It was the soldiers returning from Japan with bonsai in tow that sparked Western interest in the art. Even though most of the trees brought home by these soldiers died a short time after their arrival, they survived long enough to create a desire in Westerners to learn more about the proper care of their bonsai. The large Japanese-American population was invaluable to Americans in this respect. Their knowledge of the art of bonsai was of great interest to many Americans learning this art. Today, bonsai plants are sold in departmental stores, garden centers, nurseries, and many other places. However, most of these are young cuttings or starts and not the true bonsai produced by bonsai masters. Most trees purchased today are known as pre-bonsai and are for the most part only used as a starting point. To create a true bonsai work of art, you need to learn as much as possible. Information is your key to success, and it is important to read as much as possible. It's also a good idea to join a local bonsai club so you are able to discuss the subject with experienced bonsai enthusiasts. As your knowledge and confidence grow, creating your own bonsai works of art will become easier and your enjoyment of bonsai will grow. Now I'll hand you over to Dr. Saint Fiyaz, who will now come and show you a demonstration of how a bonsai is made. Thank you.